beautiful people. Dr. Dominique Reese here, president of Reese Financial Services, where I am the chief financial coach, consultant, and strategist. And I just thought, uh, let me go live. Let me talk a little bit about what's going on in the news, in the world, in case you're not aware. But really, like, kind of, what does it mean? So if you haven't heard, Silicon Valley Bank uh, has is experiencing a liquidity crisis. What does that mean? Well, liquidity is simply um, it means how liquid are you in your financial life, and liquidity really refers to your ability to convert your assets into cash. So let's say you're a millionaire and you only have $100,000 in cash, right? That's 10% of a million is actually in cash, meaning it's accessible to you. It's you can go get it and use it. Well, maybe the other 900,000 isn't liquid. Maybe it's tied up in portfolios, real estate, or other assets. So liquidity is really about measuring the accessibility of your assets. So this bank, Silicon Valley Bank, well, why them, right? Why are they in the news? Well, they're in the news because they fund or finance or invest in many startup companies. Goes right back to the conversation I've been having about VCs and financial networks. Well, you've actually seen this before. You saw this back in 2008 during the Great Recession. Well, that was really 2000. The fall of 2008 is when the Great Recession really started. Well, it started before then, but to keep it all simple, around 2008, 2009, right? Great Recession. Too big to fail, right? The banks all were going under. That's when I got laid off in 2009 from being a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch. At the time, I was managing like 4 million and for my private clients, and I was laid off in that. So what we're seeing now with this bank is that this bank has invested a lot of money into many startup companies. They are located in Silicon Valley, so they are a resource to many tech startups in particular. Um, but they're also a bank, so they've got people who have accounts with them. And so when you're in a liquidity crisis, what's how did that happen? Well, some of it happened because there's many factors. Like, there's not just one thing that's happening. I mean, the economics right now of the economy are really um, depressing a lot of people, including institutions and entities like banks. So you've got a bank that has invested in startups, and startups are spending a lot of their cash. They're actually going through their cash much more quickly than expected, right? And so now they're using more of the cash from their investors. They're pulling a lot of cash out of the banking ecosystem for that bank. So now the bank literally has run out of money in a sense. On top of it, when other investors and depositors of that bank catch wind of it, they're like, well, let me go get my money out because I don't want to not be able to have access to my money. So then we have what's called a bank run. And this is truly and literally when people run to the bank to get their money out. And they are being told, we can't help you. We don't have the money to give you. They have reached a liquidity crisis. They don't have cash on hand. They don't have enough on their books, right? So, what they're doing to raise more money is to sell a piece of itself back to the market. So they're looking at their company, they're evaluating their bank, and they're saying, okay, well, we're going to issue some shares. We're gonna sell off more of ourselves to the market to get more money coming in. I mean, I find this stuff to be quite fascinating because it really is just imaginary. I mean, when you really, really think about it, right? Money is just a tool. But man, the damage it can create when it's not properly managed. It's not when you're not stewarding over it well. And so, depending on what side of the fence you may lie with how this situation got to where it is, some may say they just didn't manage well. Maybe they were making too many investments. Maybe they weren't monitoring and mentoring their investors properly. Maybe they weren't diversified enough. I mean, the thing about economics and money is that it's all what you think. Everything is based on what you think. People invest in the businesses because they think the businesses are going to do well. People base their decisions off of projections because they think the projections are sound. You know, the stock market rises because people think the economy is doing well or a company is going to do well. None of it is based on fact, which is why it just blows my mind that our system is built on imagination. And I mean, kingdom wise, you know, we're in the imagination business. So it's interesting what's happening in our economy right now. I mean, this is the latest crisis to hit the news to make headlines. It's gonna ripple through the market. You may see some down days in the market. Um, but there's also a lot of other things going on. So I just want to bring other things to your attention. Um, Interest rates are expected to continue to rise. The Fed is like, wait a second, we're raising rates and spending is not slowing. Well, a few reasons for that, right? And I mean, I love economics, but it's never like one thing. That's why you can just insert yourself and give an opinion. And now you're a talking head or an expert on one of these networks because it's just whatever you think based on some data. So maybe one day I'll have my day to get on one of these networks and say what I think. But nevertheless, it's not just one thing that's creating this environment. So the Fed is raising rates in order to slow the economy. But what's actually happening is that people are spending more. They're still spending. And some industries are doing really well right now still. Travel is up. People are still vacationing. If we look at the jobs report, they're saying that, like over 300 something jobs were added, 300,000 something jobs were added in January or February. But I mean, there's only certain sectors that really added those jobs. We're seeing retail and fast food being some of the leaders, and then construction. So you're like, well, wait, I thought people weren't buying homes right now. Right, but a lot of people still are buying homes. So that's still money entering the market. And then you've got people traveling and spending. And then so this jobs report is good because we want people to be working, but we're also seeing an increase in unemployment, right? So it's an interesting dynamic right now where inflation is up, unemployment is on a slow rise. They're starting to see more claims in unemployment. And then, yeah, jobs were added, but we're still not seeing people going back to work. Not like in the waves that they've quit. We're still in the great resignation right now. So it's a very interesting economy. And then if you go globally, right, there's so much happening around the world. Ukraine and Russia are still at war. And we know that Russia controls a lot of oil access. And when there's a war and a commodity is involved, you can expect for supply of that commodity to be limited. So when supply is down, demand is up, prices are going to rise. So that's why we are seeing still rising in some places, but relatively high gas prices. They did come down a little bit, but there's a war where oil's dominated for the most part. So, we're not really seeing a relief at the gas pumps right now. Um, and then you've got places in Africa that are really, really suffering right now. I mean, there's all kinds of refugees um, in different countries. The latest that's happening between Libya. Libya has some migration happening out of its country. Tunisia has some migration happening, and really almost like because of some conspiracy theories and the great replacement theory is in effect there, and people, I mean, are being displaced out of their homes, and the government is kind of being tyrannic. It is going down in a lot of places. Haiti is still in a very um, tumultuous environment. I haven't read the latest, but I'm not sure if there's a central government right now in Haiti. Um, if you're Haitian, any of my Haitian people, add to that conversation. I'm really interested by what's going on there because we don't, I mean, I feel like I don't hear enough about it. And that's one country that I always feel like really just gets left behind when it comes to U.S. help. I don't know why the U.S. seems to not help Haiti enough. It's very interesting to me. Nevertheless, there's a lot going on. In Europe, workers are still striking and not happy about not being paid enough. I know the nurses were on strike, and that was sending a ripple effect throughout the healthcare system there. I want to say I collect the stories. I listen to NPR and talk radio and BBC to get a worldly view of what's going on because you can't always trust our networks, and there's a lot of propaganda. So you got to go seek your information. But it just makes me think like, one, I am proud to be, I'm grateful to be an American. I'm not sure there's any other soil I would rather be on right now, like right now. And I haven't traveled in the last few years, so maybe that's to my naivete. Nevertheless, I'm grateful to be here in America. But it also makes you think about other people's situation. I mean, for me, homelessness always makes me think about that. It's just a crime, the level of homelessness that we have here in LA and in San Francisco. And it hurts my heart so much. And that's one cause I'm quite passionate about. But nevertheless, you only one decision away from being like some of the people that you see out on the streets, which is why I'm always encouraging us to be generous to others because you never know if that's going to be you and your family. Nevertheless, just think like, man, what if you just chilling, Netflixing and chilling, right? And somebody just breaks down your front door and tells you to get out, like at gunpoint, right? And like takes all your stuff and just makes you get out. Like, I couldn't imagine that. I mean, it's happening in Afghanistan, with the Taliban taking over. Like, I mean, just think about all of the places I just named and all the places you don't even know about where there is strife and turmoil happening. It really creates a attitude of gratitude, if nothing else. But it adds to these economic pressures that we are experiencing. It is not just one thing. So, again, I guess ultimately my message is getting your house in order, paying attention to your numbers, because when it all comes down to it, it's like you can't rely on the government. It's trying to figure some things out too. It stepped in and I forget the word. My brain is fried. I forget the word. but there's a word when the federal regulators come in and they take over, right? And they're kind of overseeing what's happening with the bank. So they've done that with Silicon Valley Bank. And it's just like, man, oh 08, oh 09, a little bit of that all over again. And that time was driven by the mortgage crisis, right? With everybody was able to get a home, and then them rates shifted, and some of them rates were ARMs, which were adjustable rate mortgages. They weren't fixed. So everybody was able to get a house, but when them rates started to adjust and then payments shot up and people could no longer afford their mortgage, which then sent a ripple effect into the investors who invested in mortgages, derivatives as they're called. Like it was a ripple effect, right? And then the banks couldn't pay their investors, and nobody could pay nobody. And then the banks started to fail, and then the government conservatorship, the government had to come in and become a conservator for all of these banks because they were too big to fail. So some of that energy is amongst us. It's in the atmosphere right now. I just encourage you to pay attention. I encourage you to be wealthy right now. To think about your higher financial self and what your higher financial self would be doing in such a time. Would you be paying attention? Because when you're wealthy, you've got a lot to lose in times like this, depending on how you're invested and where your money is. And you see something like Silicon Valley and you start to think, well, who's next? And then you start to go to where your investments are and you like, okay, well, what's up with this one? Maybe I should pull some things. Maybe I should move some things around. And that sets off this giant ripple effect in the economy because everyone is starting to think like that. So think about your higher financial self. And even if you can't imagine what your strategy would be, one thing you should do is pay attention, read a newspaper. Now I don't know where you can get a newspaper, um, but go online and seek a reputable financial source. Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, CNBC, Yahoo Finance is okay. They're basically covering a lot of other stories. Reuters, Morningstar. These are some of the financial sources that you can go to and read about what's happening. This is what we do in the Black Women's Investment Club. We scan headlines. Scanning headlines is important. It gives you a feel of what's being said in the economy, what's happening in the economy, and ultimately, like, it keeps you in the know. You don't have to know a whole lot about a lot. Sometimes you just need to know a little about a lot, right? Be able to speak to it, be able to understand the language, be able to understand what you're reading on the headline. And now you're more informed than you were before. So I just proffer that to you. I proffer that you imagine your higher financial self and what you would do right now. Because your wealthy self is going to be paying attention to what's going on in the markets. You're going to be paying attention to your net worth. You're going to be paying attention to tapping in to the people you've hired. You're going to be paying attention. Now, when you don't have a lot, you're like, well, I ain't got a lot. But that's not what we want to practice. We want to practice our higher financial self, which is tap in. Tap in, seek your own sources, listen to what's going on around the world. Make some plays right now because people are making money. I'm telling you, it's never a bad economy. It's just what side of it are you on? And I find that right now, some things that are just going to keep doing what they do, energy. Energy, energy, energy. Now, we just got our gas bill and it did go down. Water and power is still the same. Gas bill went down a little bit. But energy is a sector you want to pay attention to. I would say healthcare, they still ain't getting that right, and cost of things are still rising. So there's a lot of activity in the healthcare space right now. And with COVID still around, I mean, all you got to do is turn on the TV. It's like six prescription commercials, at any given time. So healthcare. Um, and then if you're looking to park some cash, right? You want to look at a high yield savings account, something like a money market fund, because interest rates are high right now. Those are actually paying a little bit of something. You can go park some money in a good little money market fund, and depending on how much you've deposited into that account, you might make double digits every month. And I have two accounts like that right now. Two accounts like that right now. So while I am not promoting any of them, one, they don't pay me to do that, and two, I'm just gonna be responsible by not mass promoting any one particular institution. But if you're interested, you could private message me. I can rattle off a few. But one website you could check out is bankrate.com, and in that website you would click to um, online savings accounts or high yield savings accounts. And once you get there, you basically just do a search for money market fund or high yield savings account. And you're going to find savings accounts across the country, how much their rates are. Right now, I've seen some upwards of 5%. And depending on the compounding interest, like the one I have, it yields payout every 7 days. So it's compounding like daily, but then there's a calculation every 7 days, and then it pays out monthly. So every month in my account, I'm seeing double digits of interest. Whereas in some of these bank accounts, in the past we're lucky to make $1 for the whole year. Well, now I'm making double digits in a month. So imagine that times 12, right? Annualized, as that might be called. Annualized, then I'm looking at 100, few hundred, three figures just from parking some cash right now. That's the one benefit to being in a high inflationary environment. And with the Fed steadily raising the rates because they're trying to slow down spending, but it's just kind of not working. People are getting hired, so now they have money to spend. People are still traveling and shopping. So there's just certain behaviors that are not slowing down the economy. And Fed is steadily raising rates. So if you're looking to park some money, you're going to benefit right now. So that's where you would want to look to some money market funds. Um, if you're just parking some cash and you know you're not going to be touching it over the next 12 months. Or you want to start saving, start putting that money in a money market fund. That way, every time you add to it, every month, your interest is going to go up. And I am seeing that in both of our accounts for the Black Women's Investment Club as well as my personal. So that's all I've got for you. Just wanted to tap in with some economic updates. It is a lot of activity going on. I love this stuff. I mean, I'm a student of the economy. I studied economics at Princeton. I majored in economics at Princeton, and I got a certificate in African American Studies. They didn't do minors, they call them certificates. Um, but I love learning about the economy and how when this goes up, this goes down, and the relationship between different indicators. And so, again, as the water bearer of my community, I quench the financial thirst of my people. I bring you what I can in terms of these economic news and just kind of making it plain and how it relates to you and your everyday goings ons with your money. So I hope this is helpful. And oh, that tag is just making its debut, huh? um, my weekend report. I hope you're well. Be blessed, be prosperous, be peaceful, be productive, even on your weekend. All right, y'all. Dr. Dominique, peace.